Hi, welcome back to Agelist. This is one of those 333 episodes. It's going to be short, concise, but it's going to be about something that's weighing on my mind. This particular episode is going to be a little bit of a biology lesson, or an anatomy lesson, actually. And it was prompted by Rachel Rubin, Dr. Rachel Rubin, who is Dr. Rachel Rubin on Instagram and a urologist. She also has a pretty informative newsletter that I get. And she, I think, did a post and a newsletter on the vulva. So, just to remind you, my name is Jessica. I'm your host. I am a nurse practitioner. I'm also a certified menopause provider. This is not medical information. You should take everything I say with a grain of salt. Don't change shit about what you do without talking to your medical team, your providers, your trusted caretakers or care providers, or whatever makes sense for you, but just don't rely on me. But hopefully this opens your mind and your eyes and your legs at this point. So in this newsletter, she talks about the vulva, which is not the vagina, just so that you know, and we're going to get into that. And it sparked in me this flashback that I had of a couple women who would come in years ago when I was an RN and want to have labiaplasty. So labia means lips, and when you have a vulva, when you have a vagina, when you and I wonder too, like this. So remember, I'm not doing this with the script, so this is just shit that pops into my head. I don't know if. And I apologize for any of the trans feminine folks who have had surgery if they have both labia majora and minora. I don't know. I gotta look into that. Okay, but let me get back to the story. What was I saying? Anyway, you have people with vaginas, that is inside, that is the sheath for the sword. That's what vagina means. And the outside of what you see on the genitals below the waist is the vulva. And the vulva consists of outer lips, labia majora, which is usually where hair grows. You may not have hair there for several reasons. You may not have the hair there when you are born, obviously, because you have not gone through puberty. And as an adult person, you may not have hair on your outer lips because you remove it, or when you get older and you hit middle age, you'll see that the hair on the vulva starts to thin. And in fact, there's a way to kind of see an older punani by looking at the hair patterns, if there is hair, because it gets thinner at the top towards the middle. Anyway, that's the labia majora. Inside are the lips that are, and some people hate that, like saying lips, like get over it, but there's additional skin, labia minora, and it is the inner labia, and the inner labia can sometimes protrude. Dr. Betty Dodson has a whole vulva gallery. She spent the majority of her working life. She was an artist before. If you don't know who this is, Dr. Betty Dodson is the person who made the magic wand, the Hitachi wand, turned it into the sex toy that it is now known to be. And she also had classes called. She had a book called Sex for One about masturbation, and then she has I want to say they're called like body logic classes. Her business partner still runs them, where you spend a whole weekend learning about the vulva, learning about your own pleasure, and then you end in like basically a circle jerk with a whole bunch of other vagina owners, people who have vaginas, vulvas. Anyway, but Betty Dodson was an artist before she became a sex therapist, before she became a sex educator. And she has a gallery of vulvas to look at. Anyway, the point is that vulvas, those inner labia, they can protrude. They are usually a darker color or a different colored. Sometimes they have, they're multicolored. Sometimes they're redder. Sometimes they're browner. But they are obviously not as thick as that outer layer of skin, the majora, where the hair grows. They are thinner, but they can be a different shape. Now, there was a trend, and I do not know if it's still a trend, where women were asking to have theirs cut, surgically minimized. Sometimes people were saying it was due to discomfort. Sometimes they were saying it was stretching out. Sometimes they were, wanting to look like porn stars, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. No shade. Well, I don't care. Shade. I don't give a fuck. It's ridiculous. Because when we think about porn and we think about this whole concept of removing the pubic hair, which has a purpose of cleanliness, sweat wicking, we have hair, everything on our body has a purpose. I think even the appendix had a purpose at one point, and then it's like now it's losing its purpose. And so probably, as we move down the road, maybe it'll disappear. I don't know, but I think it has lymphatic. I'm not an expert on the appendix. But body hair has its purpose. When we think about porn and we see the majority of porn, very mainstream in the popularity, all of the stars of adult industry pretty much look alike as far as I see. And also what they are dealing with all looks very uniform as well, right? Like bleaching assholes and making sure that everything is like, aligned with the outer labia and the inner labia, and nothing's protruding and nothing's too big and nothing's too discolored or whatever that skin coloration is. That's probably most popular. I'm not going to get into that right now. And also hairless, which does not really speak to being a full adult woman. Anyhow, anywho, anyway. This kind of flashed me back when when I was reading and listening to Rachel Rubin talk about the labia of women who would come in and say they wanted to, it was too long, it was too uneven, it was different sizes. And labia, the inner lips, one can be longer, one can be shorter. I think like in either her Instagram or in the email, she talks about there's usually a variation of size, or maybe I started to do some research on it. Variation of size, maybe the left side, like the left foot, the left side might be longer than the right side. But here's the thing. So these women will have their this cosmetic, and obviously if there is discomfort and pain that they're experiencing, and it really is unwieldy, which can happen, right? That can absolutely happen for some folks. Then please, by all means, take care of it, and I want you to have comfort through your life. But if you're just doing it because you feel like, oh, it doesn't look like, I don't know, Holly Madison or what, I'm just making up some names, right? That's where we have to kind of look within, because what happens is that the steps of vulva growth are that when we are born, before we have puberty, when we are young people, the labia minora, the smaller lips, the inner labia, they they are non-existent or very, very tiny. Once the estrogen and the testosterone kick in, because we do have more testosterone than estrogen at our peak, if you do a comparison of apples to apples with people biologically born males, or male assigned at birth, testosterone is super important to us. When these hormones start to kick in, that's when the inner labia start to grow. Now, after we go through menopause and we are not producing hormones as we were before, our ovaries are not doing what they used to do, then you start to notice a shrinking of those inner labia. And so what if you had one side that was smaller to begin with, you may notice that it is gone completely. So then I think back at these women who are asking to have their labia reduced, and I think, wow, had they waited for menopause, maybe they would have had the look that they were going for as their bonus. Look, I can't get pregnant and I have superstar labia. You know, there's a book called A Billion Wicked Thoughts. Wait, let me look and see on my bookshelf. Do I have it? That's my chair making rude noises. A Billion Wicked Thoughts. So this book came out a long time ago, and it was about Google search and kind of how people look up stuff. And it was, and if I remember correctly, one of the things that it said is that the number one searched age for pornography is 19. And the second age to be searched is 50. So, you know, getting the silver medal of porn, waiting till you're 50, having those hormonal changes, they would have had perfect porn labia had they waited, I'd like to believe. So anyway, if you have labia, take a look and see where you are in that phase. If the interesting thing too is, well, so what if you are on hormone replacement? In particular, not systemic, meaning maybe you're not taking a patch or a pill or a cream, except that you use a localized hormone replacement like estrogen on the vulva, in the vagina. What do you think? I wonder, and I think that she so much says it will help to stop the shrinkage. But it'd be interesting have you even ever looked at your vulva? Have you looked at it ever? Now, if you are going to look at your vulva, I'm gonna encourage you to do it old school style, meaning use a mirror, not your phone. Because if you snap a picture on your phone, Lord knows where that goes, you know. And also, like, you don't want like your kids or your mother, your father, your auntie, like scrolling through and then there you are on display. But take a look and see, does she look different? Has she changed? Does she feel fluffy? Does she feel? And what have you been doing to support her? And what will you do to support her? I just want to say there are some people who have tried a vaginal estrogen and it has not jived with them for whatever reason. There are other solutions, and DHEA, vaginal DHEA, is one. So DHEA, just in case you do not know, it stands for, I have to look it up because it's like one of those hard ass words. DHEA. I'm actually doing it. You see, I'm not editing this shit at all. It stands for dehydroestradiol. dehydroepiandrosterone. Dehydroepiandrosterone. Andosterone. Let me put that together better. Dehydroepiandrosterone. And it's produced by the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands sit like above the kidneys, and you think of adrenaline. And what it does is it helps. It's a very small yet significant contributor to hormones, and it splits off. I like to think of it as splitting off into two things: testosterone and estradiol. DHEA is a supplement that all people can use. I'm not suggesting you use it. And the vaginal preparation is different than a supplement, because I know that you all are Googling a supplement online. Seems to work better for women as opposed to men, but I know men who have taken it. And you do have to have some support around it. You can't just be taking it, because the idea is, how do we optimize? How do we feel better, and not just take some shit and then say like, oh, it didn't work at all. It doesn't feel better. I feel worse, because that can happen if you're not. Okay, let me stop talking about that. But let's talk about this again. So it splits off to two things: estradiol and testosterone. So when you use it vaginally, the idea is that you are putting it right at the source, so that the vulva and the vagina are benefiting. You will have more lubrication, more moisture, less discomfort, and you may even have the benefits of a little increase, just a minor bump in testosterone, which we need. All human beings need testosterone. It helps with mood, it helps with libido, it helps with motivation, it helps with strength. It's good stuff. So that's an alternative if you've tried or been considering vaginal estrogen and it didn't work for you, or you didn't like it, or whatever, your personal issues. But the other thing about using supplementation for the actual vaginal health is that, as I said before, we kind of revert back to, a lot of people talk about perimenopause as a reverse puberty. And in a way it is. Remember, you started with no hair, you get an abundance of pubic hair, and then it starts to peter away. When we use vaginal estrogen and or DHEA, what happens is that we also are making sure that the lining, so the vaginal lining, so remember the vagina is the sheath, it becomes thinner. It has, in its heyday, it has these ridges, these bumps, like the ocean, waves of the ocean in the inside, right? And so a lot of like masturbation tools that people with penises may use will have those ridges. I think it's supposed to mimic what the vagina has. But the vaginal walls become thinner, the ridges start to become less prominent, and with that thinning skin, there's also a change when we don't have the hormones in our pH. So the pH of the vagina should be that of a tomato or orange juice. So we're talking in the 3.54 range. Of water has a pH of 7. I actually wrote a thing on this, and I think that there's another whole podcast episode on where I mention the pH of the vagina. When we think about lubes, a lot of the lubes that you get, which are water-based, are going to be more of the basic. So as the number goes up, it's more basic. As the number goes down, it's more acidic. And so when we do not have enough acid in our vagina and it's becoming very basic, that is when bacteria will overgrow. And you can think about bacterial vaginosis. You can think of E. coli. Okay. And in the worst case, for everyone, you can get a UTI. I'm not saying that you can, when I say for everyone, I'm not saying that the acidity of the vagina affects all, like, say you had a male partner or you're going to pass that on. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that a UTI is very dangerous for everybody, for all bodies. And what Dr. Rubin says is that UTIs kill. We know that with male-bodied people, especially younger ones, well, basically all male-bodied people, people with penises, UTIs can be very, very, very dangerous. And then for women, again, also UTIs can kill. And so vaginal estrogen, if you find yourself constantly in a state, if you're over a certain age, if you're going through the perimenopausal journey, which I just heard can last up to 14 years. Like I think they've just changed the statistics a little bit. I know for me, like that 10 years, like I'm still, I don't know. I skipped a period last month, so we'll see. Like hopefully that was month 1 of my 12 and I'm moving my way towards my 366, but, and we could talk about that later because I think there's some warning that I'm going through around it, but whatever. The point is, I don't really know. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? UTIs, dangerous. Yeah. So as we move through perimenopause, as we start to see a change in the lubrication of our vaginas and our vulvas, the odor changes. And I'm not saying that it's a bad odor, right? I'm not talking about that. It's just that you know how you smell and you're like, this is different. This is, not what I'm used to, or, the coffee is hitting different than it used to hit, you know what I'm saying? So as there is that change, some people will find, and I've experienced this with, as a provider with patients coming in 47, 45, saying, I'm always getting BV, or I always feel like I'm getting another UTI. So in that case, right, what is most helpful could be, well, let's just call it, what would be most helpful is to put at least localized estrogen or DHEA in that area to prevent these infections happening. And even when we think about trichomoniasis, which is a parasite that can usually happen with younger people, I don't know who you're out there with. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you live your best life? And I want you to enjoy and have pleasure safely. But when we do not have the proper pH, because we do not have the hormones to support that area, we open ourselves up to infection. Anyway, all that to say that all of these amazing body changes, right? They, it's just amazing. Like, we literally are shape shifting. We cut ourselves. Like, this is going to sound so ridiculous, but like, I look at our bodies and I'm like, we are this science experiment. It's so cool. You slice yourself, you'll heal up in most cases, right? If everything is in balance, if your sugar is right and your protein is right, you're just going to like heal up. And it's even when we move through this phase of life, as we lose hormones, then our body changes as well. And it's almost like, well, we don't need that, but we do. Like some of us love our inner labia, right? Some of us enjoy our bodies as they were, and maybe even mourn our bodies as they are now. And, but we can still find pleasure in our bodies. Anyway, that to say, what do I want you to come away with here? Please do not call the areas that you see in the genital area a vagina. That is not your vagina. The vagina is on the inside. I've made that mistake. I still make that mistake just to be like lazy sometimes. But know that the outer bit is the vulva. What you see is the vulva. The vulva changes. Do not feel ashamed because one of the inner labia is longer or shorter or a different color or multicolored. You are perfect as you are. If you are having discomfort, know that there are solutions. If you are finding that you're having infections, know that there are solutions. It's not that you're not taking care of yourself. It's not that you're not cleaning. It's not that you're not whatever thing you're telling yourself. And that's really about it. And that there are some really great doctors out there and providers out there who, maybe I should do that. Maybe I'll do that another time. I'll make a list of some of the social media people that I like to follow. You know, I love Hot Flash Inc. Rachel Rubin has good stuff. Andrea Explains It All. I think that's what, or is it Sex Explains It All? She's so good. I don't know if she's a PA or an NP. I apologize, but she's funny. She puts out some good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff. Anyway, know that there are solutions. Find wonder in the body and it's changing. Okay. And if you have questions, if you have an idea that you want me to explore on the podcast, let me know. Follow me on YouTube. Follow Agelust on the Instagram. Follow Agelust on all the podcasty things. And listen, people are really following this site on YouTube, and I'm so grateful. Thank you. Keep listening. Please keep sharing. Like, review, comment, hit the ding, ding, ding to get, I have some good episodes coming up. I have this list of people that I want to talk to. Anyway, remember, talk to your medical provider before you make any changes. Number 1. Number 2, like, follow, subscribe. It's free. It's helpful. I love it. I think that's it. Okay. Until next time. And don't use fucking perfume on your puss. All right.